Happy Friday, everybody. Or let's see, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Linda. Who is this over here? Carl, and we are Colourwerx Designs. We're coming to you from beautiful Palm Desert, California, and today is... Yay! Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well and you're having happy Colourwerx quilting today. Again, this is Fab Friday. Look at that. Happy St. Patrick's Day, too. That's why we have the green quilt behind us. We've got the Ides of March coming up next week. Ooh, and we've got St. Patrick's Day coming up next week. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody Irish, or if you're not Irish. This is episode number 49 of the Fab Friday program. Today we're going to be talking about our happy little Easter chick placemat that I did, but also this is the table runner pattern. So if you look in the description of this video, if you're on Facebook, it's going to be at the bottom. If you're on YouTube, it's at the top, or vice versa. There should be a link right there to download this free pattern. And there are some links to some other tutorials that will help you do this pattern if you've never done, let's say you're looking for different ideas for machine quilting, or you need some help on your machine applique. But we're going to talk about all of that in a minute. Let's see who's checking in from where on this fabulous Friday here. Make sure that you like and share this video as well. So go ahead and hit that share button right below us and share with all your friends. I see we've got Nedra. Hello, Nedra from Arizona. Nedra and I caught up at QuiltCon last month, which was great, with Carl. You were there. You were there. And Julie from Oceanside, good morning to you both, she says, or you're so great to see you both. And Denise, hello. We're saying hello to everybody. It's been so long. And Suzanne from France.
Hello, Suzanne
hello.
from France. And
Terry, yes, from Columbus, Ohio.
Snow day.
It's a snow day. Wow.
Snow is on its way.
I hate to tell you, Terry, it's beautiful weather here. We had really big wind yesterday here in Palm Desert, and today it's a beautiful, like, nice 70 degrees. So it's not too hot, not too cold. Teddy's checking in from Ventura. Hello. Nice to see you too, Teddy. Who else? Oh, my goodness, Denise.
That was
too
cute.
Oh, too cute on the chicks. Yes, we'll talk about that. These are fun to do. And Laura's checking in from Upland. Hello. And what does Suzanne say from France? I see another comment from Suzanne. So thank you for the pattern. It is so cute. Yes, we'll talk about that. If you haven't had an opportunity to download this pattern, don't fret. It's available right here in the description of the video. Or you can go to our website under limited edition PDF patterns under the shop tab, and it's going to be there for the next month, month and a half, 2 months for you to download free. If you are new to Colourwerx, I would only ask that maybe you go over and subscribe to our newsletter in exchange for getting the free pattern. That would be really great and so much appreciated. Okay, anybody else, Carl, before we move on and check it? Oh, hey, Amy, how are you doing? You guys are so nice to be checking in and all these great comments. Hello. Was that Evelyn?
Yes.
And Brenda from windy Fontana. Yeah, it is. I think we're going to get some more wind. It was pretty windy here yesterday.
And Lisa from Arizona.
Hello, Lisa from Tucson. That's a beautiful city, by the way.
Susan is going to make it with a granddaughter.
Oh, it's a great pattern to teach somebody how to quilt. And I'm going to go through how I did the wonky piecing on these chicks because, you know, in case you're new to wonky piecing, it's super easy, super liberating, and all that great stuff. Carl, should we check in with the cactus cam? I don't think anything's going on. I think everything's working.
Just before we go there.
What?
Susan says, big storm on the way there in France. However, here...
The sea are huge.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
Waves.
Well, yeah, because isn't your aunt having huge...
Yes.
Carl's Aunt Jen lives in Stoke-on-Trent, Midlands of England, and huge weather problems going on.
So let's give everybody a bit of sunshine here.
Yes. Oh, there's the cactus cam. So yeah, we're having beautiful weather. You can see it's clear as can be. Now, yesterday you couldn't see the mountains beyond the houses there because we were having sand flying and all that other great stuff that goes with winds in the desert and everything. But there's the beautiful cactus cam going on the Oasis Country Club, 15th hole here of the Oasis Country Club. Golfers are out, as always, not just at that moment. We might catch them later. The ducks are out, as always, which is great. And then we have these enormous, huge pelicans that come flying in. In fact, we have, what do you call him? Like, he's a midnight feeder. We have this one that comes in at night like around 10 o'clock at night, and you just see him swimming around, in the pond, in the moonlight, this big white pelican, and we call him the midnight feeder. So, just a little side story there. Anyway, before we move on to the tutorial, you guys, let's talk about some new items we have in the shop. So we just did a signature collection with Island Batiks called Graphiques, which is a black and white batik collection. And we have some very limited edition kits that we put together of the quilts we did. So if we go to the first slide here, these are now available for purchase in the shop in case you're looking for something new. This is our Mod Box pattern kitted up in Graphiques. So we have a black and white version with a hot pink kind of background color as well. And that's, we have a limited edition amount of kits in the shop available for purchase, and that is $100. That's the full kit, including the Mod Box pattern, and it makes a 72-inch by 84-inch quilt for you.
It's big.
It's big, and it goes fast. And so those are like 10 half yards of each of the black and whites, plus your background fabric and your binding and your pattern. And then the next one we have all kitted up is our Colourwerx quilt. A lot of people have been asking for this to be kitted up. The picture is not as clear as I'd like it, but that's home photography for you. So that is kitted up, also a limited edition in the Graphiques black and white collection. Carl even went all the way out for you guys.
I did.
He pre-cut the binding strips that you see there, the colored binding strips, and pre-cut the inner border strips as well, and pre-cut the colored squares you need to do the lightning bolt of color. So all you have to do is cut up your black and whites and then start putting it together. That also includes the pattern. That's $110, $120, I think it is. So. And then we also have bundles available for you. So if you just want to add to your stash with some Graphiques batiks, there is a 20 fat quarter or 20 half yard bundle. That's the entire collection. So it's 20 different black and whites and some tone on tone blacks and some tone on tone whites. That's in half yard and fat quarter bundles. And then we also have a 10 kind of skew tone on tone bundle put together, which is 8 tone on tone blacks and 2 tone on tone whites put together. And you can get that in fat quarters or half yards. We also, if we come back, still have Colourwerx available. So we just cut in, I'm going to give you a warning if you haven't got into this yet, we just cut into our very last bolts ever of Colourwerx because we did Road to California and then we just did the Desert Quilt Show. You guys have been so nice in supporting this collection as well. But we do have still there strip rolls. We have bundles of half yards, fat quarters, and 1 yard bundles, but it is getting limited. So if there's your warning, if you haven't yet picked up Colourwerx and you want Colourwerx, now's the time to do it because we can't get any more. So, there's the warning for you. Any more stuff going on? Ooh, Barbara, good morning from Granada Hills, and Jen from Palm Springs. Hi, Jen. It was Jen and I caught up at the Desert Quilt Show. It was great to see her. So Jen is our mid-century modern maven from Palm Springs, And Connie, hello from North Carolina. And Mary from Santa Margarita, California.
Joy from Iowa was in today.
Joy from Iowa. And what does Teddy say? Oh, yummy batiks. Yes, Teddy. I know they are. And some are screen printed, which they're doing now with batiks, and some are batik, which means it's still a batik because it's still on a batik material, but you can use the back and the front of those batiks as well. Okay, anybody else before we go on to our big tutorial here? Thank you, Susan. Love your new products. Thank you very much. Okay, let's talk about this pattern, shall we? What's interesting, this pattern may look familiar to you. We're approaching the 2-year anniversary, if you know, I don't know if anybody's keeping count, why would you, of the pandemic. And this was the pattern that we gave to you free in March of 2020 at the start of the pandemic. So when I was thinking about doing this again, I thought, well, this is appropriate. We're coming to the end of the pandemic, so it's appropriate to offer this free yet again. So if you have this, there's not much that's changed in the pattern per se. The only thing that's changed is what I'm going to show you today about how I did these chicks. And this is our Colourwerx fabric. These were all scraps that I had. So I'm going to show you how I did this little wonky piecing. And of course, this method can apply to any applique shape that you're using. So it's just my way of kind of making a new fabric out of all my scraps and making the applique shape look just a little bit more interesting to the eye instead of just using one fabric. You can certainly use one fabric for the Easter chicks, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. So if we go to the slide, Carl, before we go to the overhead, there it is. So that was the second Easter chick pattern that I did at the start of the pandemic in 2020. Now, I do not have that quilt anymore. It's actually gone to a loving home. It's bringing love and warmth to the owner of that quilt now. But that was the Easter chick pattern that I did out of batiks at the start of the pandemic. And of course, that's the pattern that's available to you in the link either above or below this description, whether or not you're watching this on the Colourwerx YouTube channel or the Colourwerx Facebook page. But the link is there, or you can go to our website under Shop to the limited edition PDF patterns page, and you'll find a link there as well. So if we go to the overhead, here is the original version of the Easter Chicks or Hip Chicks pattern. This is the one that ended up in the McCall's Quick Quilts, and we're talking almost 20 years ago. And this was a challenge that the editor of Quick Quilts at that time gave me with Minky. And so I'm going to bring this up. These guys are made from soft, furry Minky, and it's a very sensory feeling. I mean, when you rub these guys, they're very soft and they're very, furry. And so that's something you can do too if you have Minky still around. Or if you have wool, this makes a wonderful wool table runner, or something like cherry wood fabrics, that suede-like looking fabric, you could use that. Now, the only thing I would say is that if you're going to use wool or you're going to use Minky for your hip chicks, you're going to want to extend your satin stitch, meaning the width of it, to a wider satin stitch to encompass the furriness of the wool or the Minky, and catch the edge of the fabric and then the edge of the background fabric. So that's just a word of warning, and also keep a lint roller with you at all times while you're using Minky. Now, what I did is I actually took our Hip Chicks pattern, and I just made this cute little placemat. You could make a wall hanging or a little pillow out of little scraps that I had of Colourwerx fabric. And I'm going to show you how you can start your wonky piecing if you've never done it today. Of course, you're going to need to download the pattern. The shapes are on the back page right there for you. So everything is in the pattern. And the pattern actually doesn't talk about wonky piecing. The pattern does not give you the measurement for a placemat. So you may want to make a note. A usual placemat size ends up being 13 inches tall by about 18 inches wide. That's what I call a hungry man placemat. Now, Carl had this wild idea too.
I did.
Yeah, you could just do one chick off to the side, right?
Yes.
And then use the egg shape as a place to hold the napkin, meaning that you would applique around the egg shape and maybe leave the top open.
Or you crack the top
Or
of
you
the egg.
crack the egg. You could just do a zigzag across and then throw a napkin in there, or the silverware. This is whatever your imagination wants to do. But the pattern itself will tell you how to make this, but you can make a placemat. And so let me show you how I did this wonky piecing. So the way this starts, in case you're interested in trying this out, is I just took scraps. And so I had a whole bunch of scraps from my Colourwerx fabric in my scrap bin. I cut them to about 1.5 inches wide by about, I just measured it, 6 inches long, maybe 5 inches long. They just have to be wide enough to be as wide as the egg shape. And the way you start this is so simple. You just start with 2 strips of 2 different colors. Maybe you've got, in this, like the blue one, I've used 3 different fabrics. And what you're going to do is actually place one strip down, take the next strip, and angle it from upper left to bottom right. You can see I've just created a wonky kind of angle there. Once I like that, I just put them right sides together. Okay, no measuring, no wedge ruler, nothing. And I'm going to sew across the top edge of that top strip. These are right sides together now. Now, once I sew across the top edge and I press up, and I'm going to cut away this excess fabric above too, the seam line, I'm going to get this look. or this look, let's say, because the pink was on the bottom. So you can see it's sewn together, it's pressed, I've cut away the extra on the back, and now I have two wonky strips put together. To add my third strip, I'm just going to put another strip on top, probably the opposite fabric or a different fabric, but I want to angle this strip in the opposite direction of this strip. So see how this strip is kind of going up to the right? So I want this to go up to the left so that my wonky piece that I'm making grows straight up. It's not going to be even on the sides. It's not going to be any of those things. That's not the idea. It's simply to alternate the angle from strip to strip, and you just keep adding more and more strips until you grow your wonky piece. What is this fur today? Wow. And so you just keep adding this in until you grow your piece to the size that it needs to be. And you know it's the size what it needs to be because it grows up to a little bit taller than the egg shape. So once you get your piece, let me remove all those, done, it's just a matter of drawing your egg shape, if you can see that, on the fusible web. You're going to maybe rough cut it out. Don't cut it out on the line. And then you just fuse that shape to the back side of this new piece of fabric you've just created. It's as simple as that. This technique, this wonky piecing technique, works for everything. So with St. Patrick's Day coming up, let's say you find in a magazine some shamrocks or something like that. You want to make them a little bit different. Wonky piece some green strips together. And these can be any width you want. These could start out, I cut mine at 1 1/4 inches because I wanted it, because it's a smaller shape, to show a lot of wonky piecing. But let's say you didn't want to do that. Let's say you wanted to cut them at like 2 inches. You could do that, or 2 1/2 inches. You just, whatever you've got, whatever you want to do, once you create your new piece of fabric, you just stick your shape on the back, fuse it on, cut it out like you would normally with machine applique. This is raw edge machine applique. And then you just cut your other pieces. Like here I have some wings that were left over that I didn't like the color, or his little toupee. There's the little toupee, you know, that goes here. So then you just go on your way there. I want to show you how I got these, and if we go to the slide, oh yes, and I have the eyes. So the eyes, everybody wants to know how the eyes are done. Hopefully you can see that. They're buttons.
Quarter
So
inch.
they're like little tiny 1/4 inch buttons. I actually like treasure these little buttons. So I bought them at a wool shop, quite frankly, a long time ago. And these are 1/4 inch, but you can find these. These are like called baby doll buttons, baby doll eye buttons, I think it is. And so if you go to Michael's, look for something that is very tiny. You could also, you know, sew these in, these little eyeballs. Mine are on there as buttons, but you could sew them on as if you're really good with like doing French knots or pearl cotton or things like that. I don't think I'd try to applique anything that small unless you're really good at needle turn applique. But these are 1/4 inch, like what they call baby doll button eyes, I think, at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or things like that, Joann's. And then now if we go to the slide, so there you go. So those are the two I made to go on this placemat. So I did one out of green, which is just 2 fabrics, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then the blue one is actually 3 fabrics, so back and forth. And remember, you're alternating your strips from right to left, meaning you're alternating the angle so that it grows out relatively straight. And then for the background, let's talk about that for a minute. So this is a tutorial that is linked to the video here. If you're looking on YouTube or Facebook, it's going to be in the top description or the bottom description of this video. It is, so if you want to find out how to do this kind of machine quilting, I would ask you to go to our YouTube page and look up Fab Friday broadcast number 10, and that will give you easy machine quilting patterns that you can do with your walking foot. But basically what I did for this placemat is I fused the batting in between 2 pieces of fabric first. And as you guys know, I always like to machine quilt my background for appliques first, and then I put the applique shapes on top and then applique stitch around them. So I machine quilted the background, and you could do this with your table runner as well if you're making the table runner, but I did this with the placemat. I then wanted to do this kind of wonky chevron quilting kind of pattern. So I drew a wonky kind of, I don't know, it looks like a stock market graph or something like that. I don't know. So I just drew this kind of wonky chevron pattern. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see that that is the first line of stitching I did. I just followed on the left-hand side, you can see, I followed the line I drew. And I just did a straight stitch with my even feed foot down. So I have a Bernina, and I used some superior thread there that is like a variegated. And then the next line of quilting that I did, which is on the right-hand side of that photo, is I just echoed the exact same thing. And every now and then I'll add in like a little extra, what do you call it? Extra kink or chevron, just to mix it up a bit. And then if we go to the next slide, that's what it looked like when it, oh, too fast. That's what it looked like when it was finished. So I just filled in my piece of fabric with these kind of chevron shapes that are echoed, and every now and then I put in an extra kink, like Carl says, just to add variety. Now, if you're interested in learning to do this, again, go to episode 10 on our YouTube channel. The link is in the description of this video. And you can find out, I basically did a tutorial on 3 different quilting patterns that I like to do with my walking foot there. Now, on to appliquing the chicks, which is the fun part. You know, I love to applique. So, and it allows me to create any shape I want. And so after I got done wonky piecing my hip chick bodies, I then cut out all my shapes, got them all together, you know, and I'm not perfect. I changed the color. You know, not everything I do comes out great the first time. So you do have to experiment with color. And then I chose my Aurifil 40 weight thread. So I like to use Aurifil 40 weight thread for my machine applique stitching. And of course I put in a 90/14 needle into my sewing machine. And again, there's a tutorial for this if you've never done raw edge machine applique, or you're just looking for some tips and techniques on how to improve your zigzag stitch or your applique stitch. Go check out the applique tutorial up on the YouTube channel. Again, the link is in the description of this video to help you. But then I went and fused my shapes on. If we go to the next thing I wanted to show you, the next slide, one of the tricks that I do is this, which is what you're seeing there. So I left the release paper on the bodies, which is the egg shape of the hip chicks. But I removed the release paper on everything else, the toupees, the wings, the feet. And I got them in place on my background fabric. And you know, you can see there that the background fabric's already been quilted. Now, why do I do this? Because I don't really want to fuse everything down right away. And so any shapes that are underneath another shape, of which most all the shapes on this particular pattern are, the toupee, the wings, and the feet, all go underneath the body. Well, I want to applique stitch those first. And I also want the freedom of applique stitching without having to run into the body all the time. So if I leave, I hope that makes sense. So if I leave the release paper on the egg shape, which is the body, I can actually hit the iron on all those pieces at the same time. But the egg shape, which is the body, will not fuse to my background fabric because the release paper is still in place. And that's what I'm showing you in this photo. So on the left-hand side, where I'm kind of turning the green body, you know, over to the back to show you, that's showing you that the release paper is still there. What I did also, if we go to the next slide, another tip, is I actually fused the beak of the bird to the body, and I left the release paper on. Why? Because now I can go around and applique stitch the beak without having to deal with a bunch of everything else, all the fabric bunched up. So any little tiny bits that are on top of other appliques, you can certainly fuse them on as long as you leave the release paper in place on the larger piece so that it acts like a stabilizer, if that makes sense. And you can see on the left-hand side how I went around the feet, right? And I didn't have to run into the body. And also because of this, because the body's going to eventually go over the feet, the toupee, the wings, I don't have to be so worried about securing the beginning and ending of all those threads either. Because by the time the body gets fused on top, all those loose threads go underneath the body. Hopefully that makes sense. And also go back to the video. But if we go to the next slide, I think that shows you how it all kind of came together. There it is. So the left-hand side picture shows you how I just applique stitched. I usually use a zigzag, or you can use a buttonhole stitch. How I went through the release paper on the back of the body. And then I would just remove all that release paper when I fuse it on top of all the other shapes. And then that's the finished product there that you see. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, all of my tips and tricks on how to do the wonky piecing. If you've done any of our other patterns like Mod Dog, Mini Mod Dog, Cat, even Cosmos or the Modfish, this is very familiar to you, wonky piecing. And then there's the pattern shape that's included in the free pattern. And again, go to the links that are on the video above or below this in the description of this video, and you'll find all that help in the tutorials that you need.
I have a question from
Yes.
Mary. But you remove the release paper on the beak before sewing.
Yes, you do. Mary said, do you remove the release? Yes, when you're sewing smaller shapes on top of larger shapes, you remove the release paper on the smaller shape to get it to fuse to the larger shape. But leave the release paper on the larger shape as you stitch around it, because it acts as a stabilizer. Anybody else have questions before we go back to Cactus Cam? I think we're okay.
Should we go back outside while you go back?
Yes, let's go back to the Cactus Cam, and I will go get back into position now.
Still a lovely day out there.
It's still a lovely day. I don't think I forgot to mention anything. No golfers, though. Do we see any golfers? No ducks, no golfers. Where are they all?
And no wind. Look.
And no wind.
That's a good for today.
But it's clear, clear, clear. Okay, so unless anybody has any questions about what we're doing here, I hope you enjoyed that. So go download. You can actually, send it to friends. There's, again, the free pattern for you there up on the website or in the description. And please, please go check out those tutorials that are linked too, because like I said, the machine quilting background tutorial will give you 3 different patterns. It'll give you the chevron, how to do that. Which is what I showed you in the placemat here. It will give you wonky lines, straight lines, which is what I do in my Mini Mod Dog. And then I believe it will do curvaceous quilting, which I do quite a lot as well. And then the machine applique tutorial will just help you with any of your applique stitching tips and tricks. This is a great little applique to practice machine applique on if you're at all looking for something. It's pretty forgiving, but you do have things like points on the little toes here that you have to kind of navigate around, and I show you that in the applique tutorial, as well as inside and outside curves, which are always helpful teaching tools when you're trying to perfect your applique stitch.
And on that one, Jeanette
says, love this pattern. This was my first experience with applique. It was super fun. Thank you, Jeanette. Yes, it is. It's a great teaching tool. So if you're doing it with kids, this is a fun little pattern for kids to do as well. And you can do anything you want with it, one fabric or wonky piecing or 2 fabrics, or you could even, I guess, make a, I don't know, you could put 2 shapes together like Carl said and crack the egg. I don't know. I would love to see pictures of that. I tried it yesterday. It didn't come out very well, but I think I made it too cracked. It looked very strange. So, and I didn't have time to redo it again. So that's why there ended up being two chicks there. So, okay, anybody else? So everybody seems to be liking the pattern. Go share it with everybody. What else are we saying? Oh, Janet, hello. Love, love, love. Thanks making this for sure. Thank you, Janet. It was great. Nedra says, thanks for another fun tutorial. That's great. Yes, please pass it on to all your friends. And if you haven't subscribed to our Colourwerx YouTube channel, please, we would appreciate that as well. So please subscribe so you get a little ding every time we put up a new tutorial, which we are doing here and there. And Barbara said, thanks for the pattern. They're just so cute. Perfect little chicks. Yes, they are. And we would love to see if anybody...
Like dyed Easter
I know. Well, no, and I would love it if anybody did Carl's little, what was that? Your little idea about breaking the egg, and then that becomes like the eggshell on one side to put your silverware or your napkin in. That.
But you don't put the feet or the wings or the toupee on it. You just crack the egg.
No, you just use the egg shape itself to put the egg on it, So there you go. And what is Susan saying? Suzanne says, Carlinda, I need a label for my little quilt. That was yours and now is mine. Oh, no, we want you to do your label.
Put
You know,
your-
that's our motto, Suzanne. So if you ever buy one of our Colourwerx quilts, we actually encourage people to put their own label on it.
We vouch for
And
you.
then we vouch for you and say, yeah, she made it. Yeah, that's okay. She made it. So, yeah, no, that's, oh my, oh well.
Lota's already making the pattern.
Making this, what? Making this
pattern now.
Now. Oh my goodness. That's great. Okay, so to wrap it up, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, Easter chick, hip chicks, it's all the same pattern if you have it already. So it's either called Easter chicks, hip chicks. It's up there as a link. There's no difference between this pattern and the one that came out 2 years ago. So if you already have it, you don't really need to rush to go download it again, but you can, and you can share it with all your friends and other quilting buddies as well. What's everybody saying? Carl's a little, let's see, I've done a few of your patterns, Teddy says, but always learn something new from you guys. Thank you, Teddy. We like you guys too. That was a very nice comment. Okay, so we were going to be back April 1st, but guess what? Just a reminder, you know, spring forward this weekend. We want to thank eCam Network for allowing us to entertain you with these little gifts that we can add into our broadcast. They make it super, super easy to do all these little fancy tricks we're doing, like showing your comments on the screen and going to videos and overhead and showing these cute little gifts to remind you to spring forward. When is it? I think it's, it would be Saturday night, but it's really Sunday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I don't know who's up. But anyway, spring forward. Don't forget to put your clocks forward. We're heading into a beautiful spring and summer and the end of the pandemic, I hope. Please like and share this video with all your quilty friends. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining us this beautiful Friday morning. We're going to be back on April 1st with another tutorial. I hope it will be a color tutorial. I'm putting Carl on notice for color. So we'll be having Carl, Color Man, talk about color and the way he sees color. So there we go. We will be back April 1st. Thank you so much for joining us today and have a great, great rest of your weekend. Happy Colourwerx quilting, everybody. Mwah!